Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. Links down in the description below. We help good people charged with crimes here. And today we are talking about knives out. We've got a lot of them. In this one instance, we've got them going for House Speaker, alleged intended to be elected, whatever he's calling himself now. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. A lot of people still making it very difficult for him to secure the nomination. You can see we're also covering this live in real time. So we're going to recap the day's events, or sort of fast forward through all of the noise from last night all the way up to today. But right now, they are still wrapping up a vote, and you can see McCarthy, we are at the end of the day. It's 212 to 200. Jeffries over McCarthy. 13 votes for Donald, 7 votes for Hern, and 0 for others, 1 present. So we'll see if they're going to continue on with votes as we sort of go through this segment, but we've got that down there in the corner so we can keep our eyes and see what's going on. But in the recap on the day, we had some very fun clips from Matt Gaetz. He's still wondering why Kevin McCarthy is squatting in the House Speaker's office. He's like, you haven't even earned this job yet. We haven't given you a job yet. Who do you think you are? And so he says, get out of there. Now, there were some interesting photographs that were taken by the AP, and the AP says Nancy Pelosi is reading something very fun. We'll take a look at. Elon Musk weighed in on all of this. We have Lauren Boebert, who is nominating Kevin Hern, and I was not familiar with Kevin Hern, so we'll learn a little bit more about him today. You see him smiling right there, handsome fella. And we also have Andy Biggs, Arizona shout out, who had something to say about the process, because a lot of people are saying, this is just madness. This is chaotic. It's totally crazy. And, you know, the whole world's melting down as usual. Everything's always melting down. And Biggs says, just relax a little bit. Then Matt Gaetz had a very interesting nomination for somebody that you know and maybe love. And we also have a very quick look at the White House, because the president was asked about this. They said, hey, what's the deal? You know, are you paying attention to this? Do you care at all? And Kamala Harris gave him a very nice assist, which was very, very nice of her. And then the question was, is the Freedom Caucus starting to crack? Were there people who were changing teams? There was a nomination from Troy Nelhs from Texas, and he came out and actually endorsed Kevin McCarthy. So very, very interesting there. We're going to go through all of that, and we'll sort of keep our eyes down on what is actually happening in the House, and we'll follow along, of course, accordingly. Then in our second segment, there was a very interesting day in this case of Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho students who were allegedly murdered in a absolutely horrendous case. The affidavit has finally been revealed. We actually have a ton of documents to go through, because as soon as Kohberger landed back in Idaho, the court just opened up the docket, basically. And so everything has been published. And you can actually go there, you know, it's all public, which is just great. What the heck did I just do? All right, so this is what I wanted to show you. If you go there on the Idaho website, they've got a whole section for public interest cases. And you can see we're going to go through these, right? The affidavit, probable cause order, the arrest warrant, the criminal complaint, the non-dissemination order, aka a gag order. We've got another order amended governing courthouse and courtroom conduct. And then we have the notice of a hearing, which is what they basically set today, right? There was a hearing today, and then they probably set a new date. So we're going to go through all of that and more. And my friends, we are going to clear up some of these tabs. Somebody in the chat commented, they're like, what the heck is wrong with you? What's going on over there? Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely out of control. We don't need all these things open. So we'll close those up. We will come back to the Idaho court docket. But as you can see, my friends, if you want to be a part of the show, the best place to do that. We've also got a lot more on that. Yeah. So there's going to be more. The affidavit. We're going to take a look at the traffic stops. There were 2 traffic stops of this Kohberger fella. And we're going to go through them and see what was going on. There were some OSINT accounts on Twitter that were following his residence, and they were monitoring airplanes flying around his house. And then we see some of the perp walk down the airport runway, which we'll, of course, take a look at before we listen to the judge. So we've just got a ton of stuff to get to. And if you would like to be a part of the show, my friends, the best place to do that is by joining our community over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do member morning streams. There's an amazing group of people over there sharing memes, sharing stories, offering each other support and love over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. locals.com. Shout out to my friends over there. C. Reed, Dana's in the house. We've got Bonnie. We have Words Mean Things. Paul Minot has a very beautiful picture of a puppy with what looks like a bowl cut. And it's just a lot of fun over there. So come check us out. And I also want to thank you for supporting our sponsors, our 4patriots.com sponsors, survival food, survival gear, all sorts of amazing things to make sure you don't die out there in this apocalyptic world that we're living in. And I'd encourage you to be prepared. Go to 4patriots.com, use promo code Robert to get 10% off anything in the store on your first order. And of course, our law firm. I am a criminal defense lawyer. We have a lot of fun here, but we do a lot of serious work at the R&R Law Group located in Scottsdale, Arizona. 480-787-0394. We help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. And thank you for supporting all the work that we do. All right, and so let's get right into it. The battle for the House Speaker continues. Kevin McCarthy's not having a good couple days. He's like, what the heck is going on here? What else do you people want from me? But we are going to go through and recap the day and the continual losing streak. And while we're doing that, while we're doing our fast forward through all of what happened, we're going to keep our eye down here on the bottom right very closely, paying attention to what's going on because it's still proceeding live right now in the House of Representatives. And so Kevin McCarthy, of course, you see here, he really wants that job. He's been fighting for it hard for a long time, and he hasn't been able to close the deal. This has been one of the most contentious House races, right? This election for the Speaker of the House, very contentious. You've probably heard the headlines 100 years, and there's precedent for these things going up to 130 plus votes, just on and on and on and on and on and on. And we just are here just cracking the shell. So we're wondering, who's going to break? Is anybody going to move? Is this Freedom Caucus or people like this Matt Gaetz fella, are they going to change teams? What is going to convince them to jump over and support Kevin McCarthy? Well, let's see. Matt Gaetz was out on the inside the House of the Capitol. And let's move this out of the way so we can properly see reactions here. Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert are in the Capitol building, and Matt Gaetz is asked about Kevin McCarthy. Mr. Gaetz, is there anything that's going to bring you over and make you Team McCarthy?
In some way to try to divide our conference. But look, he's a desperate guy whose vote share is dropping with every subsequent vote, and I'm ready to vote all night, all week, all month, and never for that person. So I'll tell you what, when he comes out and heads back to his squatting in the Speaker's office, which why is he even allowed to be there?
Why is
there some basis in law or statute or rule for someone who comes in second place in 6 consecutive Speaker races to be able to?
Why is he in there? Did he get permission to be in there? Somebody kick his butt out of there. No. You're not the Speaker yet there, buddy boy. Slow down over there, Kev. Pack up, get out of here. No. Go back down the hall. No. So he's actually holding the line on that, which is great. And you can see Lauren Boebert is there, and she's looking at him, sort of, from the side eye, and it's just a lot of fun. And he says all day, all night, we are not stopping at all. No mercy. We're just going to keep going and going and going. And so we're going to see, right? We'll see how long this goes, if they flip or what happens. But so far, it's not looking so good. We're checking in real time from C-SPAN. Here is what they are showing us in terms of the votes. So we still have the same count. Jeffries is still up, not enough to, of course, win the speakership. But the Republican voters are now sort of split now. There's 1 present, there's 7 for Hern, there's 13 for Donalds. And Donalds, we saw, had some votes yesterday, but Hern is sort of a newcomer. We'll learn more about him. But they're all waiting around and figuring out what they're going to do. So while they're waiting and while they're just sort of, on Twitter and, texting their grandkids or whatever it is they do, somebody caught this photograph. Matt McDermott grabbed it from AP Images and said, wow, this is very interesting, very curious photograph here. He says, what was Nancy Pelosi reading on the House floor over there today during the Speaker vote? What the heck was that thing? A remarkable capture by AP Images. And take a look here. You can sort of zoom in on this. Let's pull this open in another tab so we can really get in here and see what's going on. Okay, so yeah, that's the photo. And we zoom over here and we see, oh gosh, that fella over here kind of looks like a Kevin McCarthy, doesn't he? Yeah, he really does. That's weird. What's Nancy Pelosi reading? This, we can see, the make says no limits. Uh-oh. an article written by somebody. And you can actually see a text message here. Now, I don't know if this, AP sort of wound down this resolution on this capture or if this is just zoomed up or whatever. But yeah, you get a nice telephoto lens and you can see what she's talking about. Probably, actually, I don't even want to comment on that. Nobody wants to really know what's in there. All right. So this says no limits is what the title of the article is. And that's what Pelosi is reading, just leisurely reading, not a big deal. But this is the article. You can see it here. It says no limits. What Kevin McCarthy will do to gain power. It's an article over from Jonathan Blitzer. The Republicans' ambition has always been his defining characteristic, and attempting to placate both Trumpists and moderates may lead to his downfall. So that was published a couple weeks ago. And so evidently that's what she's reading, no limits. That's the online version. That's the print version. Pretty hysterical. You can see this is the actual article that they linked to. What Kevin McCarthy will do. And, go read the article if you want to read more about Kevin McCarthy. I certainly do not. But this is what Nancy is reading. So all of them are just reading about each other in this little, congressional show that they have. Now, other people are chiming in. They're saying, what the heck is taking so long? All of this is just dragging on and on. What an embarrassment. Everybody's very upset about this. And Elon now has jumped into the fold. And he said the following. He posted this on Twitter. And let's check in actually while we're here because they're making some sort of an announcement. See if we can hear any activity. What's going on over here? Is she going to say something? Don't tease us. All right, so they're back on the crowd now. All right, so we'll come back and see if they have some updates for us as the program continues. But this is what Elon said. Elon chimed in on this saga, and he put this on Twitter. January 5th, 3:23 in the morning. He's up late. He's working. He's got to fix Twitter. He says, Kevin McCarthy should be speaker, everybody. And boom, that got 39.5 million views, 115,000 likes. And Elon chimed in. He says, subtle, but I'm beginning to suspect opinions differ on this matter. I think he's being a little silly over there. All right, she's banging the gavel. Let's go back and see what she has to say for us. All right, everybody, pipe down. Order. Thank you.
The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 432.
Okay.
Of which the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212.
Yeah. Right on.
The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 200.
Not going to cut it. Not going to cut it, boys and girls. Not looking good.
The Honorable Byron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 13. The Honorable Kevin Hern of the state of Oklahoma has received 7, with 1 answering present. No member-elect having received a majority of the votes cast, a speaker has not been elected.
Are we going to get a voice vote to adjourn?
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise?
What do you got?
Madam Clerk, I rise tonight in the spirit of 1923 to address the House.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, to nominate
someone?
Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
First, let me express my deep appreciation, the appreciation of everybody in this room for the work you're doing.
So they're going
Clerk.
again. All right, we're not going to... okay, yeah, cheers. Cheers to her. She did a great job. Got to deal with everybody. Cheers. I mean it. Cheers to you. She's got to bang that gavel for all these hooligans over there. Banging. They're going again.
Our clerk has stepped up and reflects our House's best tradition of preparation and dedication to this institution, and we're grateful. From the first Speaker of the House, the Honorable Frederick Muhlenberg, to the one that will be elected next, Kevin McCarthy. The role of Speaker of the House is one of the most beloved in American history. The Speaker's mission is to carry out the principled goals and objectives of his or her party, while at the same time protecting this institution and the traditions of the People's House, all the while remaining faithful to that imperative in our preamble of the Constitution to promote the general welfare. It's a difficult job. It takes a special personality with deep affection for the House, robust courage, a sense of humor, and great amounts of humility and patience. I've watched Kevin McCarthy for longer than my 8 years serving in this chamber. And I can say without hesitation that Kevin has brought these foundational traits of leadership to bear for good of this institution and for the good of the American people. It's said that a nation not in control of her finances cannot control her destiny. And I agree. And from our many conversations over many years, I have no doubt that our next speaker, Kevin McCarthy, agrees. In the Republican Commitment to America, Leader McCarthy charged our Republican conference with taking on his two biggest concerns facing this world and this nation.
What are they?
China and our domestic national debt and deficit.
What about the rotten
Over the
Department of
past
Justice
2 years,
and the FBI?
we have lost our way on spending, printing too much money at our central bank and spending here in Congress like drunken sailors. This bad policy palooza has gone into overdrive in the past 2 years with some $5 trillion of new spending demanded by President Biden and now delivered by the House minority, whose own budget chair famously said there's effectively no limit to what America can print, borrow, and spend. Of course, this is madness, and it's not anchored in any economic tenet.
No,
and there's not a
this
single
is
one of us here
Congress.
that isn't demanding a return to fiscal discipline. And who can deliver fiscal discipline? Kevin McCarthy. On the point of spending, let me show you a list of everyone who's written me in the 2nd Congressional District who's asked me to cut spending. I'm holding up a blank piece of paper. No one has asked me to cut spending in writing.
What?
And there are not many people who get a lot of mail in this House to cut spending and to set spending priorities. In contrast, we get hundreds of letters asking us to increase spending. But we're at a critical point in this nation's fiscal health, and there's one person to help see us through it, Kevin McCarthy. How do I know? Because he said it himself, and he's identified how to do it. In 2018, then Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy brought a balanced budget amendment to the floor of this House. Mr. McCarthy said, by our actions, we've shown Washington's spending problem can't be boiled down to a lack of will. It's a problem of structure and process, and everyone knows the process of government funding in Washington is broken. He went on to say, when you change structure, you change behavior. And that no matter what, we know that the structure set up by the Congressional Budget Act of 1974 has only worked to its successful completion 4 times in 44 years. We have nothing to lose by making big changes. That's your next speaker on the floor of this House in 2018. Kevin McCarthy is committed to making big changes. We've heard it in our conference meetings. We've heard it in our rules debates. We know this becomes to reforming the budget process, fighting to bring all 12 appropriations bills to the floor under regular order and on time, and crafting changes to structurally rein in spending in this House. These changes will bring sanity back to our fiscal process. I'm committed to bringing sanity back to the fiscal process, and I hope every member on this floor will be, and follow Mr. McCarthy's lead.
We'll see.
Much has been said by our friends on the other side of the aisle, my good friends, the so-called popcorn caucus this week, if you will, over the past few days about 1923, and that we're having a
popcorn
robust
caucus. I
discussion
like that. That's
here
good.
among House Republicans.
I like it.
As to who will be the next Speaker of the House. Back in 1923, the insurgency among Republicans then was from the center-left of the Republican Party. Today, it's from the center-right. But there's more to the story in that fight 100 years ago. And I want to remind you of that history. When Fred Gillette was elected Speaker on the 9th ballot in 1923, the outcome was a more robust, more unified Republican conference, one that would go to work with President Calvin Coolidge, cut government spending, balance the budget, cut taxes while paying down the debt. House Republicans 100 years ago unleashed a pro-growth agenda. House Republicans under Speaker Kevin McCarthy will unleash a pro-growth agenda to get this economy moving.
All right, let's go.
That pro-growth agenda benefited families in the 20s. The McCarthy pro-growth agenda will benefit families across this country today. A century later, under the next Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, mark my words, this party will come together to unleash American energy, make the Trump tax cuts permanent, rein in runaway government spending, and fight for a balanced budget. So I stand before you today with unqualified support to nominate my friend, the next Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
All right. Yay. Okay, great. Hey, at least they're getting their up and downs in, right? They're stand up, sitting down, stand up, sitting down. It's a lot of exercise, which is good. It's good for these guys. They don't get much of it. So, all right. So we got another nomination. Let's quickly see what else.
Purpose does the gentleman from Colorado rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries.
All right. So we're going again. So they'll do their thing, stand up, sit down, the whole deal, the whole shebang. And we're going to just carry on, right? Well, they'll nominate a bunch of other people, and we'll see what ends up happening. We'll just motor on through and do our recap on the day. Now, earlier, there was a lot of actual interesting stuff going on. For example, Lauren Boebert nominated this fella who we didn't know much about until today, and we looked him up. So a lot of new faces. This is Kevin Ray Hern, and to those of you in Oklahoma, of course, you know who he is, but the rest of us, you know, we sort of, I think more people are familiar with senators than a bunch of other House members, but we're learning. So we've got Kevin Ray Hern, American businessman, state of Oklahoma. He is the current chair of the Republican Study Committee, first elected 2018, ranked number 7 U.S. House of Representatives by a total of stock trades. And evidently, Wikipedia says he had some issues with that. Early life and education, MBA, University of Arkansas career, elections, number of different elections. Hern defeated a Democrat in Oklahoma, tenure, and so on, right? So immigration, you see more about this fella here. This is what Lauren Boebert had to say about Mr. Hern. Oh, wait, hang on. I got two audios going.
Vote getter 10 times and counting.
Let's turn them off. We already know all about Hakeem. So we'll go to Ms. Boebert.
I rise to nominate Hern as Speaker of the House.
All right. I've got a new person here.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have been accused of not having a plan. Well, we've presented many plans and are even presenting 2 plans simultaneously right now.
All right. So there were a lot of questions about this. There were people out there saying, well, what do these right wingers want out there? I mean, what does Matt Gaetz even want? What's going to be the solution? What types of modifications to the rules are going to be satisfactory to them? And, you know, we heard kind of a little bit from the prior gentleman who was just nominating Mr. Hill. French Hill nominated McCarthy, we just listened to him, right? He kind of told us about all this weird mechanical stuff. He said things like, the rules to help this and the rules to help that. And it's a lot of stuff that happens inside the House, stuff that we never hear about. And so these are the types of proposals that they're arguing for. And we talked about this morning on our locals members only stream, where, the idea is, I think some of us, or at least me, we're kind of expecting some big policy outcomes, to come out and say, okay, Kevin McCarthy folded. Now Matt Gaetz is going to get a $4 billion border wall or something, right? Or Lauren's going to come out of Kevin's office and she's going to say, great, guess what? We're not funding Ukraine anymore or something, right? Not going to be like that. These are minor details. Or, they're not minor details. These are pretty significant things. Obviously, they're battling over this, aggressively. But they're things that are very important to them inside the body. They're not that, they're not as impactful to us outside in terms of the regular conversation that we're having. But Lauren here, Ms. Boebert, says we actually do have proposals. We have clear things, clear knobs we want to move in order to get some of those rules changed.
For Speaker of the People's House, I sat in my chair anticipating to vote for Byron Donalds, whom I respect, whom I see as a leader. And there was a gut check that said, we need someone that is going to convince my colleagues on this side of the aisle that it's time to get going. It's time to build momentum. Many of you have said it. You see that Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes. You are understanding that he is not going to get there. We had the votes for him. I cannot produce those anymore. The colleagues that I brought with me to offer those 218 votes on the first ballot aren't there anymore. It is not happening. And as it's been said, we need to get to a point where we start evaluating what life after Kevin McCarthy looks like. America doesn't want more talk, and I'm going to keep my speech a little short.
They cheer.
They want action. I'll take that. I want to get to work too. America is tired of rhetoric and they want results. This isn't chaos. This is a constitutional republic at work. I'm a mom of 4 boys. I know what chaos and dysfunction looks like. This is actually a really beautiful thing to be here with all of my colleagues debating. Just as the gentleman from Montana said, we have not experienced this in the 2 years that we have served here in Washington, D.C. This is the most debate that has taken place, and I love it. I love the conversations that are going on the floor, in the cloakroom, in the halls. There's nothing extreme, there's nothing unreasonable. We're trying to get this right. As my conservative colleagues and I have stated time and time again, Congress is broken and fundamentally needs change. I'm here to get this right. We need a leader that is not of the broken system, someone who is not beholden to the lobbyists, but to the people who sent us here, someone who can unite our party, and most importantly, someone who can deliver on the promises that we have all made to the American people. I believe that there are many people on the floor today that can do just that. I've voted for my friend Jim Jordan. I've voted for my friend Byron Donalds. I'm voting for Kevin Hern, the gentleman from Oklahoma. Mr. Hern went from rags to riches, and like myself and many other members, is a small business owner.
Right on.
He has lived the American dream.
Love those small business
He's a father, a family man, and as Kevin likes to say, he's a conservative, but he's not mad about it. We can have a happy warrior leading us. I understand that threats have been made about committee assignments, that you won't receive committee assignments
Ooh, that's what
if
Matt
you do
Gaetz
not vote
said
for
too.
Kevin McCarthy.
That's what Matt Gaetz said.
That is true. It happened in conference, and that is exactly what we
Wow.
were told.
Wow.
But we don't govern in
Wow.
fear. We govern for the people on principle. Don't be afraid to do the right thing. I believe that Kevin Hern is a unifier. He just received the chairman of the Republican Study Committee by unanimous consent. This is the largest caucus in our conference. Look how many people have already put their trust in Kevin Hurd to lead them. I get asked by my constituents, where does this go? Who can unify the party? Who can deliver results? Representative Kevin Hurd can do just that, and I am proud to enter his name into the nomination, and I hope that some of you join me. Thank you, and I yield back.
All right, that's right on. So oh, hey, Matt Gaetz is speaking now. Let's listen to him. A lot of activity out there today.
From this administration now. And so I rise to nominate Donald Trump
Whoa!
for the position of Speaker of the House.
Whoa!
And for all of the vitriol that we hear from the media and at times the left, there were great moments of bipartisanship under the Trump presidency. And the Democrat nominee for Speaker knows that well because he led valiantly on the efforts for criminal justice reform, and I was honored to join him. And I know no matter who's sitting in that speaker chair, we got a lot of work to do on that very issue. We took a first step, but there's a second step and a third step to take, and I'm glad that we were able to work with President Trump, with Republicans, and with Democrats to provide real outcomes for Americans to create greater prosperity and more opportunity. I also care deeply about President Trump's focus on our nation's veterans. It seemed for far too long on the campaign trail, veterans were disregarded, forgotten about. When we would get elected to office, their issues would not always rise and get center stage, but we were able to pass veterans accountability measures. We were able to actually get people fired at the VA who weren't doing their job. What a great thing that would be to extend and continue to nourish. President Trump oriented our views on trade so that we actually put the American people first, not foreign interests abroad or special interests here at home. President Trump knew that we had to confront China, that China had already engaged in a trade war against us, but it was a war that we were surrendering, and so we started to fight back. He stood with our farmers, and on foreign policy, we stopped trying to find a new Jeffersonian democracy to build out of sand and blood and Arab militias in the Middle East. Matter of fact, President Trump, I believe, is the first president in my lifetime that didn't start any new wars. This is an issue that I know unites some elements of the right and left for the benefit of our communities.
Will the House be in order?
This government for far too long has been deeply corrupt. This town has been deeply corrupt. The way people get leadership positions and chairmanships and opportunities to be able to morally preen has been by accepting lobbyist and special interest money and redistributing that money as currency for favors. And that is not a criticism of either political party. It is a criticism of what we have allowed to happen in this place. And if we just go next man up on our side of the aisle, we will reify that corrupt system and we will abandon the people who are expecting us to fight for them. I have heard from my colleagues about all the important work we have to do, and it is my sincere fear that if we were to allow Mr. McCarthy to assume the speakership, that would not get done, that it would be business as usual, and the very same things that have paralyzed progress for both parties would continue to shackle us to never-ending failure. We can be better than that. We can raise our gaze indeed.
Cheers to Matt Gaetz.
Have to restore to the Speaker's office an actual person that ought to be in the Speaker's office, not the squatter who is currently there. And if the architect of the Capitol is listening, I sent a letter, and I would like to know what the basis is to allow somebody to occupy the Speaker's office who comes in second place 10 straight times. Is there like some basis in law or rule or precedent for that?
This is courtesy of Sleepy Dog Lee on Twitter.
So I nominate President Trump because we must make our country great again, and he can start by making the House of Representatives great again.
Kick him out. That's Matt Gaetz. Holy moly. Nominated President Trump.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia rise?
Madam Chair, I rise for the purpose of placing a name in nomination.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What a privilege we all are enjoying tonight. We are all enjoying as elected members of this great body, the people's house, as it has been said. And what a great representation of the constitutional republic in which we enjoy living, the greatest country in the history of the world, as we play out as the people's representatives in selecting the all-important position of the Speaker of the People's House. I was out in the southeast balcony here just a few moments ago, looking out at the Supreme Court, looking at the flag flying above this Capitol building.
All right, call the Capitol Hill
looking
Police,
at the
Matt.
Jefferson and Madison, both Virginians, by the way, libraries of
what?
Congress, and pausing to do what probably most of us recognize we fail too often to do, to take it in, this high privilege, this distinct honor that we have to be the people's representatives from our respective districts in this House, here in this Congress. This is the greatest nation in the history of the world. With all of our imperfections and all of our imperfections as people and as a nation, no nation in the history of the world has freed more people, has rescued more people, has ministered to more people, has evangelized more people than the United States of America. And that would be a good time to respond with some applause.
Who are you nominating?
There's a reason
Please clap.
why people from all
Jeb
over the
Bush,
world
please clap.
are trying to get into this country. Many of them illegally due to the policies of the current administration.
Who is it?
But people from all over the world are literally taking on a treacherous journey, risking life and limb, subjecting themselves to abuse to try to sneak their way into our country because they know this is the greatest country in the history of the world. No country in the history of the world has provided more upward mobility, more advancement opportunity to people of all races, all nationalities, all ethnicities like the United States of America. But however, we as a nation, we're teetering on the brink, aren't we? Isn't there just a window of opportunity to save the republic? Crisis after crisis, $32 trillion in national debt. Equates to over $90,000 per citizen, almost $100,000 now per citizen. Some $300,000 per household. When I said that on this very floor a few months ago in a budget debate, the then chairman of the Budget Committee said, "Stop saying that. We're not asking anybody to pay it back." As if it's not real.
Who is it?
As if it's not monopoly. As I heard someone say, don't tell the other side what happens after trillion. What comes after trillion? And we just spent $1.7 trillion. Both parties, Republicans joining in the Senate, a few in the House, to pass a $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill. Sadly and unfortunately, part of the reason why I stand here today, the kind of bill that has been supported by our former minority leader every time it's come up in the House, no matter who is in control in the 12 years that he has been in leadership, contributing to the $32 trillion in national debt. Yes, the other side is better at raising the debt than we are, but we have been participants. We're in crisis. We're in crisis with 5 million illegals having invaded the border in the last 2 years.
Come on.
When is it too much? We're in crisis with the state of our education system, K-12, college campuses, indoctrination of our kids. We're in crisis with the weakening of our military with these NDAA bills. We're in crisis with trampling on our most basic and essential freedoms over the last 2 years in ways we couldn't have imagined
All right.
pre-2020. Whether we can assemble, whether we can worship, whether we can earn a living, whether we can travel, what we have to put on our face, whether or not what we have to take into our body, whether or not we have to disclose what we've taken in. Trampled in ways we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago.
Trump posted this, by the
Greatest
way.
reflection of where the people in the country are is the House of Representatives. And the people spoke back on November 8th and gave the majority by some 3 or 4 million votes to the Republican Party. It's not the White House, it's not the Senate, it's the people's house that reflects where the American people are, and they've trusted us on this side of the aisle with the leadership of this House. And we have a window of opportunity to validate that trust, to do whatever we can to save the Republic, to earn them giving us the Senate and the White House and this House back in 2024. We have got to have a leader who not only has true conservative convictions that reflect the majority of Republicans who sent us here, but yet a courageous leader. It doesn't matter what you believe, by the way, unless you're willing to take risks to yourself personally to fight for it.
Who's he talking to?
We need a leader who has proven to do that very thing. We have an opportunity to make history. We will live with the decision on this side of the aisle for the next 2 years. We will answer for how we voted. And I know how people in your respective districts, like mine, Madam Chair, all the respective districts, how they're telling you to vote. They've been telling me how to vote for 3 years, to vote for transformational change in our leadership of this Republican Party. They've told me not to vote for the status quo, not to vote for the next in line establishment creature of the swamp cartel, but to vote for transformational change. And they're watching us. They're wondering if we'll hang in there. Or
we are watching you. That is true.
Or will we give in? Or will we let them down one more time?
Probably.
And I say we're not going to do that.
Well, don't hold your breath, America.
They're looking to us. You look and see what a great job a recent businessman did in the White House. Did things no one else has ever done in the White House. Did things that no one else has ever done to try to change the country.
What's the name?
Showed courage and common sense and judgment that we've not seen before. We need a businessman as the Speaker of the House. We need a businessman like Kevin Hern as Speaker of the House. We need a businessman like Kevin Hern, who has led the Republican Study Committee's budget task force that I've served on for 2 years and put forth the only balanced budget that I've seen, heck, the only budget that I've seen in the 2 years that I've been here, who fought alongside us to say, why don't we adopt the Republican Study Committee's budget for the Republican Party? And we didn't get agreement to do that. We need someone who will do that. And we need someone who's the head of the largest caucus in the Republican conference, someone like Kevin Hern. So it's my privilege to put an official nomination, Kevin Hern, for Speaker of the House. Thank you, and I yield back.
All right, so they're speaking up
The
over
reading
there.
clerk will call the roll.
All right, so they're calling for roll, and we'll pick back up.
All right. I'm ready when you are.
Adams. Jeff.
All right, so they're going through the votes. We'll just get back to the program and carry on where we left off. But there were some prior interesting things that happened. So, of course, we know that the last vote that just came in, the last nomination was for Kevin Hern. Kevin Hern is the same person that Lauren Boebert actually just nominated, right? So we just heard her speak for him earlier in the day. So it was just another nomination of the same guy. Now, there was another short clip from Biggs. Biggs is a representative from the state of Arizona, and he was out. You know, a lot of people are criticizing the process, and, you know, the process is the process, and it's kind of, you know, fun. It makes it easy to sort of follow along and watch what's going on. And, you know, it's kind of, it feels like they're actually doing something. So it's better than, I guess, what they're normally doing, which is just ripping us all off. At least it's entertaining and we get some content out of it. But they are now saying, look, this is part of the process. Okay. Democracy is messy. It shouldn't be something where the wheels are just greased, right? Everybody just hops down the big blubbery slide and they just, you know, get down the pork slide and they just gobble up money on the way down, right? It should be hard. This stuff should be difficult. We're tired of the seniority stuff where the next person who's in line just gets the job. Andy Biggs says, it's all normal. Relax, everybody.
Changing the rules of an institution, but by changing the leadership. And I'm told this process is painful. It's embarrassing, I'm told.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's not dysfunction, and it's not imperiling. What it is the exchange of ideas, an expression of support for people you want to be your leader in the next Congress.
Yeah, get out there and duke it out. That's exactly what they're doing. Now, I wasn't expecting Matt Gaetz to come out and nominate the actual former president, Donald Trump. He did something like that earlier today. He just stood up and said this.
Gaetz.
Donald John Trump.
Trump.
And watch Marjorie Taylor Greene. Did you see that? Watch Marjorie Taylor Greene. She goes, what? What?
Gaetz.
Donald John Trump.
Trump.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look at her. She goes, the heck? What? She might have said WTF. I don't know.
Trump.
But the camera cut off her. You know, camera's like, okay, show her respect. I know what the other words are cut. She said, what? Camera cut, because she knows the camera person was like, the F is coming out of her mouth next. Donald Trump. What? Well, now it's official. Now the nomination is officially on the record, and they are going through the votes. You can see it down here where they are one after another counting the votes. So McCarthy is 17, Jeffries is 10, Hern and Trump. Trump is officially on the board, my friends. There it is. Donald Trump. No votes for him yet, but we'll see what happens there. Hern's got 2. Jeffries is there at 11, and McCarthy is up at 17. And so there was a lot more that took place today. We had a very interesting conversation at the White House because Joe Biden is still trying to figure out what's going on. But when he was leaving the White House, you see that he finished up a press conference where he talked about who knows what. And he's walking towards the door, and you know the vice president is just there. And so they're doing this interesting thing now where they've got Kamala just back over his shoulder even more frequently. Remember, there was a time here where we noticed that they were separating these two, that they actually didn't want them to be seen together because Kamala was like so toxic that the Biden administration was like, holy crap, we don't want anything to do with her. So they kind of put her, you know, in the closet somewhere, and they just sort of ran their administration. They blamed her for the border. Why don't you handle that? She's like, oh gosh. So now though, now that, you know, they need to sort of start grooming the next person, the heir apparent, they're really bringing her out there. You know, they're shoving her back there in that back corner just so that we get used to seeing her. So when they do the old swapperoo, that we all are, I guess, more accustomed to the change. But they asked about this speaker battle. They said, hey, Mr. President, you know, you're very insightful. You've got a lot of keen thoughts about the modern political arena. Can you please tell us, are you giving this much attention? And Joe Biden has a difficult time with the words.
Are you still monitoring the speaker's race? Are you still watching the speaker's race?
I'm following with great
Derp.
Attention.
Attention. We're following it with great what?
Are you still monitoring the speaker's race? Are you still watching the speaker's race?
I'm following with great
Word.
attention.
Attention. Word. Line. I need a line. Now, to be fair, you know, like I can understand that too. It's like, man, I don't know what to call it. You know, yeah, we've been monitoring it with disgust. We've been monitoring it with glee. We've been monitoring it with lactose intolerance. I don't know what, you know, I don't know what it is. So he's got a whole list of things that it could be. So I could see him being like, well, you know, I don't know how to say it. And so Kamala just responds and she says, attention, just that's a neutral word. Now that's a benefit of a doubt that I would give to a competent, non-demented individual, but of course we don't have that here. So I actually think it's more analogous to line like in a play.
Are you still monitoring the speaker's race? Are you still watching the speaker's race?
I'm following with great how can I say it?
Attention.
All right, so that's some good stuff out of the White House. At least they're working together. You know, they're finishing each other's sentences. Isn't that so cute? Gosh, they've been together for so long now. President and vice president, they're finishing each other's thoughts and sentences. It's like just a couple little lovebirds. So fun. All right, so we've got Freedom Caucus. Now, this one was raising some eyebrows earlier in the day, and we're watching to see if there's any switcheroos or anything. McCarthy's up in the lead, 30-29. We've got Hern, and, you know, they're all voting away. All right. Is that Katie Hobbs over there? Oh, gosh, kind of looks like her, huh? Oh, no, she's our new governor here. Going to vomit my guts up. All right, so this is something that caught a lot of people's eyeballs. Troy Nelhs from Texas. He's a representative, of course, and he's evidently a member of the Freedom Caucus, but he flipped, apparently. And there were a lot of people exclamating all over Twitter about this today. Let's listen to his speech.
From what purpose does
He's from Texas.
the gentleman from Texas rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
Yippity-doo-dah-day.
Kevin McCarthy has been our leader for the past 4 years and has overwhelming support within this conference. My intent today is to address the American people who have been watching these proceedings.
Bang that gavel, madam.
My intent today is to address the American people who have been watching these proceedings and are concerned about what they've seen in this chamber over the past 2 days.
Are you concerned, America?
I am a member of the House Freedom Caucus, and I am
Okay.
proud to say so.
See?
I believe the 20 members that have nominated an alternate candidate have expressed their concerns with leadership.
Okay.
And many of those concerns have been addressed and accepted by Leader McCarthy and this conference.
Uh-oh, so he's saying Matt Gaetz is a big
I believe this
whiner.
battle we are raging must end.
Wow.
Kevin McCarthy fully understands that being Speaker of the House will not be easy. Kevin is aware that any legislation he would like to pass out of this House will require support and endorsement from the Freedom Caucus. This is where I believe we can hold the Speaker accountable. Kevin has made changes to the House rules at the request of all members.
This is about the deal.
One of those rules changes was the motion to vacate the chair, which Nancy Pelosi removed 4 years ago to avoid the scrutiny and the accountability.
Typical Pelosi.
The motion to
figures.
vacate the chair that has not been offered for a floor vote in over 100 years calls for the removal of the Speaker of the House. Kevin has reinstated the motion to vacate the chair, which I believe was the right thing to do. This motion allows us, the Republican conference, to hold the Speaker accountable. The American people gave us, my friends, us, the Republicans, the majority, and their vote of confidence to change the direction of our country. The American people are begging for leadership because the Biden administration certainly has not placed the American people first. Kevin McCarthy understands. He understands he must protect that Speaker's gavel and abide the will of the American people.
Are you serious?
The decisions we make in the 118th Congress are critical
I've got the
to
gavel.
the future of our country.
Weirdos.
The decisions we make, the legislation we pass as a Republican majority must have the support of the American people. We have a crisis on every corner in America, and the American people are expecting Republicans to bring this much-needed change. We must come together today and implement that change. To those of you outside of Washington that are watching,
Yes, we're all here.
Kevin McCarthy
Tell us.
and this Republican majority understand your pain.
Oh.
We understand your pain. We feel it. We understand we must secure our southern border. We must unleash our energy sector and become energy independent. We must curb inflation by reducing spending. And we must support our law enforcement officers, folks. We got to get crime under control. We must place America and its people first. And all this
Has anybody mentioned like the FBI, DOJ, Twitter files?
And
any
all
of that?
this,
I
my
don't think I've heard much of
on
that
the
at all.
Republican side. All this, we can do this, all while holding the Biden administration accountable. And the Washington bureaucrats who have infringed and abused the rights of the American people and their families long enough.
Okay, maybe this is it?
Under Speaker McCarthy, they will be held accountable.
Oh, really?
They will be held accountable. So today, let's do what's in the best interests of the American people. Let's get to work. Let's elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. And at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy as the next Speaker of the House for the 118th Congress.
All right. Got big clap, 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 clappy. All right. So that's what was going on today. Now, there's a lot of that all day. Round and around we go. A lot of patty cake games. You rub my back, I'll rub your back. You're amazing. No, you're amazing. No, you're amazing. No, you're amazing. Stop, 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 stop. Right. And it's just a lot of fun. So this is what's happening there. They're going to count. It's probably going to be another 30 minutes or so. Matt Gaetz just voted for Donald John Trump. You could see that he mouthed that. Of course, he nominated him. So we'll keep this going. We'll keep this in the bottom right, and we'll check back in on what's going on here as we move on. But those are the updates for the House, and so we'll leave our segment there. Of course, they'll be back tomorrow, unless we get an affirmative vote one way or the other here. I wouldn't hold your breath on it, but we'll continue to check in. Of course, we will be back tomorrow. I'm sure to pick it up all again. Thank you for joining us wherever it is you're tuning in from. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video, and we'll look forward to picking this back up with you on the next one. All right. And so now let's change gears a little bit and let's talk about this Kohberger case. All right. And if anything pops up here, we will, of course, pause and check back in. But this was another just absolutely wild case that we saw pop up today, and there was a lot of activity on this, and I want to spend some time on it. All right. And so let's get this queued up so we have it all ready to rock and roll. Bryan Kohberger, the case of the Idaho student killings. He has finally had his day in Idaho court. We're going to go through a lot of it because the court has released a ton of materials that are well worth our attention. And so we're going to take a look at, of course, the affidavit. The affidavit has been the subject of a lot of headlines. It is very juicy. It's quite long. We're going to go through the whole thing. We're also going to take a look at the traffic stops that the police, the FBI, law enforcement, they were monitoring him, following him along. There were airplanes flying all over the place over his house before the arrest. We've got the updates from the court, the airport perp walk, the court docket, and the no bail hearing from the judge. But let me share this with you. You can see here, this is all public. These are cases of interest out of the Idaho court. And in Idaho, they've got everything listed here. It's Latah County, CR 29, 2022, 2805. And there's a bunch of documents, and they're updating these basically in real time. Today was the hearing on the 5th. They've got the notice of the hearing. It's updated. So this is outstanding. We'd love to see this type of transparency. Shout out to everybody from Idaho. We're going to go through all of this in detail, especially the affidavit, because it is big and it is juicy. But before we get into that, let's get our bearings straight, because they were following him. Actually, let's just go to the affidavit, and then we'll check back in on we'll go to the affidavit first, and then we'll sort of follow along the affidavit and check out some of this other information. And so let's pull this back up here. All right, this is the affidavit. The statement of Brett Payne in the case of the Idaho student's killing. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger. This is law enforcement investigating him up until the moment of his arrest. They submitted this to the judge to get a probable cause order that an arrest was appropriate. The below information, starts this affidavit, is provided by Brett Payne. He is a duly appointed, qualified, and acting police officer within the county of Latah in the state of Idaho. They say Mr. Payne is employed by the Moscow Police Department in an official capacity as corporal and has been a trained and qualified peace officer for approximately 4 years. Mr. Payne is assisted by members of the Idaho State Police and agents of the FBI. Okay, so a little bit of background on him. So here he says, on November 13th, and he wrote this. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting because he sort of wrote this like in the third person, like Brett Payne is employed, and then he switches to the first person here. Okay, so he says, okay. Anyways, on November 13th, writes Officer Payne, At approximately 4 p.m., Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, hereinafter named King Road Residence, to assist the scene and with scene security in the processing of a crime scene associated with 4 homicides. Upon our arrival, the Idaho State Police, the forensic team, was on scene and was preparing to begin processing the scene. MPD Officer Smith, one of the initial responding officers, advised he would walk me through the scene. Smith shows up first. Payne shows up. Later, he gets the walkthrough from Officer Smith. So Officer Smith and I, we entered the residence through the bottom floor. The door was on the north side of the building. Smith and I then walked upstairs onto the second floor. Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room, was Xana Kernoodle's, hereinafter Kunodel's, room. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body, later identified as Kernoodle's, laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan, hereinafter called Chapin. Chapin was deceased with wounds later determined. Autopsy reported was provided by the Spokane medical examiner. That was dated December 15th. The death was caused by sharp force injuries. Says that I then followed Officer Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. Third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Gonclave's, hereinafter Gonclave's, room. I later learned from review of Officer Nunez's body camera that there was a big dog in the room when Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Gonclave's and her ex-boyfriend, Jack Ducour. I found out from my interview with Jack Ducour on November 13th that he and Gonclave's shared the dog. Officer Smith then pointed out a small bathroom on the east side of the third floor. This bathroom shared a wall with Madison Mogen's bedroom, which was situated on the southeast corner of the third floor. So the officer's giving us the whole layout there and just walking us through it room by room. He says, as I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed of the room. Both Gonclaves and Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side. On the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had a K-bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle, Globe, and Anchor insignia stamped on the inside of it, outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of the male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. This was the suspect profile. They say, as part of the investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents. 2 of the interviews included BF, DM, and both BF and DM were inside the King Road residence at the time of the homicides and were roommates to the victims. BF's bedroom was located on the east side of the first floor at the residence. Based on numerous interviews conducted by the MPD officers, ISP detectives, FBI agents, as well as a review of evidence, I have learned the following. They write, hang on, was something happening here? Okay. I was checking on that, but looks like nothing's really going on. It says, on the evening of November 12th, Chapin and Kernodle were seen by BF at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus at a certain location, 9 p.m. to 1:45 a.m., the date ranging between November 12th and November 13th. Now, BF also estimated that at approximately 1:45 a.m., Chapin and Kernodle returned to the residence about 1:45 a.m. BF also stated that Chapin did not live at the residence but was a guest. They say the Gonclaves and Mogen were at a local bar, the Corner Club on Main Street. This happened in Moscow. Gonclaves and Mogen can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club, by the bar, 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. from November 12th to the 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Gonclaves and Mogen can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck. That's also Main Street, downtown Moscow. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch, which is available for public viewing on their website. So people are eating and they're just streaming it live. So this video was captured by law enforcement. They got their hands on it. A private party, blank redacted, reported that he provided a ride to Gonclaves and Mogen at 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck over to the residence. So we have an unknown person who's transporting them. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms, by 4 a.m. That's with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who did report that information. So yeah, late night order. So DM stated that she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the south side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. 4 a.m. she wakes up. Sounds like Gonclaves is playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms. She's on the second floor, they're upstairs on the third, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said that she heard who she thought was Gonclaves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of the records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed that this could have been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 in the morning. So she's up, and Gonclaves hears some about that. Says DM stated that she looked out of her bedroom window, but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. Pokes her head out the door, didn't see anything. Stated that she opened her door a second time when she heard that what she thought was someone crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said that she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, quote, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at the residence, residence immediately to the northwest of this residence. So we're talking about 1122. There's another located residence at 1112. They picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. So they go to a security camera in the building next door and they start, pulling that audio footage, and they enhance, and they hear voices and a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. So pretty close, but that's still pretty far. But they got something out of there. It's the sound of a whimper, loud thud, dogs barking. So they got some good data out of that. DM stated that she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. And that's like really close to see somebody, right? That's like face to face. You could see their eyebrows. He's got a mask on. I don't know if it was a psychopath mask or if it was a COVID mask, who knows? But they are wearing that down, and she gets face to face with him. The male walked past DM as she stood in, quote, a frozen shock phase. So she just was petrified. The male walked back towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Now, this is interesting. If he just had allegedly murdered 4 people, why would he leave this person alive to identify his bushy eyebrows or any of this detail? 5'10", taller, male, not very muscular, right? I think a common interpretation of this whole saga is that he was there for a particular person. Other people woke up, and so he had, to take them out also, or, something to that effect. So if that was his MO, why is he just walking past another person and not, taking out that other witness if he had to take out some of the other witnesses? So it's a strange thing to just sort of walk by and continue on your way. It's also strange that DM went back into her room, didn't call the police or anything like that. We're going to get there. Now, the combination of DM's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from BF and DM's phone, and a video of a suspect video as described below leads investigators to believe that homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. So they're narrowing down the time. The affidavit continues. They say, during the processing of the crime, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then the amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern, similar to a pattern of a type of Vans-type shoe sole, just outside the door of DM's bedroom, located on the second floor. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's travel path. Right, so they start assembling the footprints one by one. As part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvas, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvas was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13th in the area of the King Road residence, surrounding neighborhoods, in an effort to locate the suspect or vehicles traveling to and from the residence. They go to all the neighbors, all the convenience stores, all the liquor stores, all the banks, all the bank tellers, all the ATM machines, right? ATM machines are recording all day, and they just go pull those cameras out and they say, okay, who's moving around where? They gobble it all up. This video canvas resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I've reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. A review of some camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereinafter called the suspect vehicle number 1, was observed traveling westbound on the 700 block of Indian Hills Drives in Moscow. That happened at 3:26 a.m. and westbound on a different street at 3:28 a.m. On this video, it appeared that the suspect vehicle not displaying a front license plate. A review of footage from multiple videos also obtained from the King Road neighborhood, door cameras, ring cameras, all of them, showed multiple sightings of the suspect vehicle, starting 3:29 a.m., ending 4:20 a.m. These sightings show that the suspect vehicle makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leaves via Walenta Drive. 3 passes. Weird. Based off my experiences as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood, very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. So upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit the area during this time. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04 a.m. This can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road and then driving back on the westbound road. When suspect vehicle number 1 is in front of the residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving back around. The vehicle is then next seen departing the area of the residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. High rate of speed, racing out of there. Suspect vehicle number 1 is next observed traveling southbound, and based on my knowledge of the area and the review of the camera footage in the area, that does not show the vehicle during the time frame. I believe that he likely exited the neighborhood at these locations. Okay, so what he did is he went around, he gobbled up all the neighborhoods, ring cameras essentially, and he's following him around. And he says, okay, well, he didn't come down this road. We got this neighborhood camera. He didn't come down here, which means he turned off either on Palouse Road or on Conestia Road. So they've got the whole map recreated. Palouse River is at the southern edge of Moscow, and that proceeds into this location. Eventually, the roads lead back to Pullman, Washington. That's approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. So he's bouncing around all these back roads. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them. So law enforcement officers provided video footage of the suspect vehicle to forensic examiners with the FBI, working on an actual case this time. Congratulations. That regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that's observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensic examiner has approximately 35 years law enforcement experience, 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles. He uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles to identify different vehicles across states, differences between the vehicles. Says that after reviewing numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, this forensic examiner initially believed that the vehicle was a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. And upon further review, he said, well, it could be a little bit broader than this. It could go all the way up to a 2016 year. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011 to a 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. All right. So anybody in that area who owned a white Hyundai Elantra of that year, make, and model, they probably had their records looked at. Okay. It's crazy what they did. And they went through, all this stuff is probably public record. Some of the vehicle records. Yeah. So I'm very curious how they did this mechanically, like what the operations were, what they jacked into to get all of it. But they were looking at a lot of cars. So investigators were given access to the footage on the Washington campus in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that about 2:44 a.m. November 13th, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of a white Elantra, known as the suspect vehicle, that was observed on the Washington surveillance cameras traveling north. At approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, also consistent with the Elantra, was traveling southeast on another street. Now, SR 270 connects to Pullman. This camera footage was provided to the FBI forensic examiner, and they started talking about now a 2014 to 2016. So they're moving the makes and years of the vehicle around just a little bit. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, we're still sort of going through the surveillance footage at this point. 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the vehicle, was observed on 5 different cameras, on multiple cameras at the campuses. The first camera that recorded the white sedan was located at this road. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on that road. That leads directly back into this road. And then that road crosses 270. Now, at approximately 5:27 a.m., the white Elantra was observed on cameras traveling northbound on that road. Here's the depiction showing Moscow and Pullman. So, you zoom in here and they tell you, okay, look, these are the probably two towns right here. And he's sort of navigating us through how all of this works, right? Traveling around from this location, and he's going to, guide us through. All right. We've got an understanding of what that looks like. He says this is a depiction of the white Elantra's travel path. You see that here. Kind of bad color, kind of grayed out a little bit. But it says here that the white Elantra is seen leaving the campus at a certain time at the yellow triangle, which is here. So the yellow triangle seen returning to the WSU campus on a red triangle, which is here. We have the yellow triangle and the red triangle. And then we have 1630 Northeast Valley Road, which is here. Arrows are camera locations, and they indicate the approximate location of the direction of the travel, right? So they're sort of saying, all right, this area, we can see this part, this camera, we can see this part, and these different things are what we can see. So he writes, with all of that background, he says, on November 25th, MPD, Moscow Police Department, they asked law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for white Hyundai Elantras. On November 29th at 12:28 a.m., a Washington State police officer named Daniel queried white Elantras registered at the university. As a result of that search, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate LFZ 8649. Washington State University police officer Daniel Tiengo got the guy, allegedly. The vehicle was registered to Bryan Kohberger, hereinafter Kohberger, residing in Pullman, Washington. That's approximately 3/4 miles away. That's the last location that the camera picked up that white Elantra. Wow. So he says that same day at 12:58, another officer named Curtis was looking for Hyundai Elantras and located one in the parking lot. 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. That is the apartment complex that houses WSU students. That was the circle or the gray rectangle, the yellow rectangle right here. That's the area. Officer Whitman also ran the car and returned it to Kohberger. So he's got him too. Got a Washington tag. So they send this over to the original drafter of this affidavit. He says, I reviewed Kohberger's driver's license information and photograph. This license indicates that Kohberger is a white male, height 6 foot, 185 pounds. The photograph shows that he has, here it is, bushy eyebrows. Bushy eyebrows is what this officer is referencing. That came from the conversation from DM, which was the individual who said that he had the bushy eyebrows. And this is a close-up. Oh no. Of him. Well, I don't know where that went. All right. So you get it. He's got bushy eyebrows. You take my word for it. Further investigation continues, including a review of Latah County Sheriff and his body cams and reports. It showed that on August 21st, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho. At the time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra, same license plate set to expire in November. During the stop, which was recorded via law enforcement body cameras, Kohberger provided his phone number as ending in 8458, hereinafter the phone, as his cellular telephone number. So investigators then conducted electronic database queries and learned that 8458 phone number comes from AT&T. Now we see that there are some interesting traffic stops here. On October 14th, Bryan Kohberger was detained, got a traffic stop by WSU police officer. Upon review of that body cam and a report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant, driving the same vehicle. On November 18th, according to Washington State licensing, November 18th of 2022, Kohberger registered the 2015 Elantra and received a Washington plate. Prior to this time, the 2015 Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This we learned through communications with the Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified over there. So that explains why he doesn't have a license plate on the front. Okay, so as he was detailing this earlier for us, he said he was observing the car traveling down the street. The car didn't have the license plate. Okay, perfect. Why wouldn't it have a license plate? He's thinking to himself, here in Washington, you have to have a front license plate. Everybody knows that. And so he goes, that's weird. It kind of stands out of the ordinary. Well, why doesn't it have a front license plate? Oh, well, talks to a Pennsylvania cop. He says, oh, we don't need those here. Oh, okay. Well, based on my experience, he says, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plate. Investigators then believe that Kohberger is still driving the white Hyundai Elantra because his vehicle was captured on a December 13th, 2022 license plate reader in Colorado. And they have these police cars, they have these vans and police literal cars that just have cameras in the front of their vehicles, and they just capture license plates all over the place. Or it could have been at a toll road, right? Or some sort of a checkpoint when you're crossing state lines. They just reading license plate numbers and suspended license, warrant out for that person, whatever. And they're just getting people. And the big stuff they go, follow up on. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th by law enforcement in Indiana. On December 16th at 2:26, surveillance video showed his Elantra in Pennsylvania. The sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. He's got family there in Pennsylvania, and we learned that through a law enforcement search using a database. And so based on the information provided on the website, on WSU's homepage, Kohberger is currently a PhD student. He studies criminology over there. Oh, great. At the Washington State University. They say, pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for the Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. So police have a little concern now. They say, oh, great. These records also showed that Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. He wrote in his essay that he had an interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He also posted a Reddit survey, which we read here, which can be found via an open source internet search, which we did. The survey asked for participants to provide information to, quote, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. All of that was in his, apparently his sort of questionnaire that he was going to give to ex-convicts. This was a Twitter thread that he posted over at the subreddit called rxcon. He was going to ex-convicts and he was saying, can you tell me how it felt when you killed somebody or when you did something very bad? And he had a whole series of questions that we went through here where he was saying, sort of, how'd you think about doing it? What was your plan for getting away with it? Why didn't you get away with it? How would you have done better? You know, those types of questions. It was kind of nuts. Now, as part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the residence on that date between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. After determining that Kohberger was associated with the white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the phone did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular tower resources in close proximity to the residence. So they're going, darn it. We thought we'd see him, right? If they had him just, bouncing around there inside the house, they go, well, that's great. We got this physical location along with this car, along with the license plate, along with all of the other things. And that's probably enough, but he's not there. Based on my training and experience and conversation with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cell phone records as part of their investigations, they say individuals can either leave their cell phones at different locations before they decide to go and commit the crime, or they can turn their cell phone off prior to going to location to commit the crime. So they leave it at one location or they just turn it off entirely. And they say they know how to do this. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in the area. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. And this vehicle was doing loops, passed it 3 times or so. Depending on the circumstances, he says, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of the crime. And during these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cell phone at a separate location or turn it off since they don't plan to commit the offense that day. Right? So he's like, well, I'll turn it off for the actual murder, but I can leave it on when I'm just driving by because everybody just drives by this road. On December 23rd, officer says, I applied for and I was granted a search warrant. I wanted the historical phone records for this one phone number between November 12th, 12 a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m. for that phone held by A&T, 24 hours preceding and 24 hours post-event. And they got to keep this narrow. They're not going to say, can we have access to all of his records all the time? Because the judge might deny that. That's kind of an overly broad search. And they don't, right? This is still pretty early in the investigation. On December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for 8458 from AT&T. They got back to him. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at the Pennsylvania address. The account's been open since June 23rd, 2022. These records also included historical cell site information for the phone. After receiving this information, I sent it over to the FBI, a special agent certified as a member of the Cellular Analysis Survey team. Members of this team are certified to provide expert testimony. They have to pass extensive training, written and practical examinations, all sorts of certifications. He says this special agent that I consulted with, he's got over 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, including 6 years with the FBI. Yeah, but has he worked for Twitter? From information provided by CAST, I was able to determine estimated locations from November 12th through November 13th in the time period authorized. On November 13th at 2:42 a.m., we can see that the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the Kohberger residence. Phone tracks him back to where he resides. At approximately 2:47 a.m., right? So it's pulling resources. It's communicating. Your cell phone, ping, I'm here. Ping, I'm here. Yes, you can send me a phone call. Yes, you can send me a text message. I'm alive and well. What do you need? But at approximately 2:47 a.m., the phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast, consistent with Kohberger leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman. This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra, leaving the Kohberger residence, traveling south. That took place at 2:47 a.m. Now, at approximately 2:47 a.m., the same time, the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network. That's consistent with either the phone being in an area without cell phone coverage, or the connection to the network is disabled, airplane mode, or the phone is turned off. So basically they, within a matter of seconds. But he starts leaving is what this looks like. Leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south. Then he turns it off like en route. So the 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cell phone resources that provide coverage to the Idaho State Highway 95 south of Moscow, near Blaine, north of Genesee. Okay, so they know exactly where all the towers are. They're just pinging the towers. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway back this way, traveling west towards this other way, back into Pullman, north back into Pullman, which is where he left. We're coming full circle again now. Leaving 1630 Pullman, Washington, now pulling back in. At approximately 5:30 a.m., the phone is utilizing resources that again provide coverage to Pullman, consistent with the phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. The phone's movement are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that's also observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at 5:27 a.m. Based on the review of the phone, the estimated locations, and the travel, they say the phone's travel is consistent with the travel of the white Elantra. Further review, they say, indicated that the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th that are consistent with the phone leaving the area after the fact at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow. Specifically, the phone utilized resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 and 9:21. The phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with the phone traveling back to the area of the residence and arriving to the area at 9:32 a.m. So I think that means that he went and traveled back over there, right? It says further review, left his residence, traveled to Moscow, used the same cell phone coverage that would have given access to the residence the next morning. That was on November 13th. Below is a depiction, not to scale, of the possible route taken on cellular device locations. So you can see he's traveling this way, following around, doing a little loop-de-loop. There he gets there. Now, investigators find that the phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th. But investigators do not believe the phone was in Moscow on that date. The phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date. Interesting. He says, based on my training and experience, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the phone, was likely the driver of the Elantra that we observed departing. Additionally, the route of travel during the early morning hours of November 13th and the lack of the phone reporting between those hours of 2:47 and 4:48 is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at the residence. So they say, on December 23rd, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical records and prospective location information and a pen register trap and trace on the phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims in the case prior to the offense, whether he conducted surveillance on the residence, whether he was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offense. They wanted to know any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred on the 13th and the location of the white Elantra, as well as location of Kohberger. So basically everything. The judge says, whatever you need, you got it. Go get him. On December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records from AT&T. Account was opened June 2022. After consulting with the feds, the FBI, I was able to determine estimated locations for the phone from June all the way up until now, the time period authorized by the court. Right? Okay, so he keeps getting more and more permission from the judge to expand the scope of his search. I could only look at the time, then the time plus 24 hours before, time minus 24 hours after, and then same thing happening here, except we're expanding it all the way from the beginning of the account to now. The records for the phone utilizing cellular resources, it shows that this phone utilized cellular resources that did provide coverage to the residential area on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th. So he goes there at least 12 times, and he's at least on the cell towers. Okay, I don't know if he's stalking them or doing whatever, but he's using the same cell towers that they are. And he doesn't need to. He lives in a different city, town over. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days, which, of course, looks a lot like stalking. One of these occasions, on August 21st, the phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to the residents for about an hour, 10:30 to 11:30 at night. Now, at that night, at about 11:37, Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff Deputy Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. The phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location at the time of the stop. They say that further analysis of cellular data showed that the phone utilized cellular resources consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman back over across a highway at 12:36. They utilized other resources that would provide coverage to Cat's Cup of Joe Coffee. That's located in a certain area. They got surveillance footage from Cat's Cup of Joe. That showed a white Elantra consistent with his vehicle, and he drove past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with the cellular data from the phone. All right, so now they're tracking him. You can see lots more yellow arrows. You can see yellow arrow here, here. We've got one here. We've got one over here, one here, following this way, this way, this way, tracking him all over the place. At approximately 12:47, the phone then utilized cell data in the area of Albertsons, a grocery store. Surveillance footage from the grocery store is consistent with his vehicle. They show him walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at 1:04 p.m. He's still traveling around. They say additional analysis of the records for the 8458 phone indicate that between 5:32 and 5:36, the phone utilized cell devices that provide coverage to another area. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network for approximately 5:36 to 8:30 p.m. That's consistent with the phone being in the area that the 8458 phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. All right. On December 27th, agents then, knowing all of this data, they're following them all around from all these various towns. Agents in Pennsylvania, they're on him. They recovered trash from the Kohberger family residence. The evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. December 28th, Idaho State Lab reported a DNA profile obtained from the trash, and the DNA profile obtained from the knife sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of a suspect profile. At least 99.998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from being the suspect's biological father. So that's where they went to some of those public databases and they said, oh, that's the one. Based on the information above, I'm requesting an arrest warrant be issued from Bryan Kohberger. 1 count burglary, 4 counts murder, first-degree murder of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I declare under penalty of perjury that this is true. Signed December 29th, your fiant, Special Agent, no, this is a local police officer, Corporal Brett Payne. Whew. All right, so a doozy of an affidavit there, and there is a lot more because these two, this is just sort of the beginning. The affidavit has been released, but there's a lot more evidence that is coming out, and there were several traffic stops as well. So let's take a quick look at some of these traffic stops so we can sort of add some meat to the bones. Now, this one took place 12/15/2022 at 15:50 hours, Axon body camera. This is the stop of Bryan Kohberger, and let's see what the police found during this encounter.
I stopped you, man, when you were driving by me there, you're a little too close to the back of that semi. About one car between you and the back of this trailer. We're about one car going 10 miles an hour, so we're going 60 or 70 miles an hour. We're about 6 or 7 cars.
They can't hear much.
Oh, you guys did?
Yeah, and you said that.
You guys stopped by a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV? Yeah. Okay. All right. And you thought you guys were following too closely?
All right. I don't think we see or hear much in this one, so we'll just fast forward through some of it.
All right. He's at Central. Thank you, sir.
All right. So undercover officer conducts the traffic stop, pulls him over, and we see another one. So we see this happens later on. Let's see what this one has in store for us. This was released it says it's the same day, December 15, 2022, a traffic stop of Bryan Kohberger. The police want to get a closer look at what is inside that white Hyundai Elantra.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating.
Tailgating?
Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing early.
What's WSU?
Yeah, I go to the university basically. That is SWAT team area.
I go to university, there was a shooting, they brought a SWAT team.
I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours to drive. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
Yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where?
SWAT team.
Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's going to the universe, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look at Kohberger's
work at the
hands.
university there?
Where are his hands at?
I actually do work there.
Oh.
PhD in criminal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
This happened this morning. About an hour and a half ago. They're still wrapping it up for investigating. I'm not sure there's two shootings because they did shoot somebody.
I see.
And then you don't know about that actually. They were there, they were shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor and don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Don't follow too close. I appreciate you. And so he got stopped twice there, right? And so he's going, uh-oh, I'm in big trouble. Now, I don't know, who these officers were, if they were FBI agents or they were working with FBI agents or if it was, who they were, but it was very likely, they're following this dude around the whole country. They kind of knew who he was. They needed to get DNA evidence. They needed to get enough to really make sure they could convict him because evidently he studies forensics. He studies criminology, right? Police are on high alert that this guy might have something up his sleeve to get away and they can't nab him. But they're following him. They're conducting these pretextual traffic stops. You're following a little too close up there. What the heck are you talking about? Was he following too close or not? Who knows? Who cares? Cops just made up a reason to stop him. They did. They were looking for his hands. They wanted to, ask him some questions, make sure it was him, and he's still moving along through. And he had to know something was up at that point, right? At this point, he's going, I'm getting stopped all over the place. I'm in big trouble. Now, my question is, what does Dad know, right? Dad's driving there along with him. What's Dad's involvement in any of this stuff? It is yet to be determined. But we're going to check back in. We're going to go through the rest of the court docket because there's a lot more to get to. There is a whole slew of documents. We're going to take a look at the arrest warrant, the actual criminal complaint, the non-dissemination order, the second amended order governing courtroom conduct, and the notice of the hearings. We'll fly through them relatively quickly. We'll also take a look at the airport perp walk, and we'll check in with the judge and see what she had to say at the court proceeding today. But before we do, my friends, let's check in with our amazing sponsors over at 4patriots.com and take ourselves a water break. And hey, I think I'm wearing the same shirt. Look at that. How about that? My friends, a food shortage could be coming. Even in the United States, experts have written about this as recently as July. Drought, inflation, even new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important now than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriot survival food kits ever. This is not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years super survival food, hand-packed right in family-owned facilities in the United States, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, and they stack easily. They have different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97. Yeah, they're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code Robert. Start building your own stockpile today. Yeah, it's the same shirt, and it's basically the same exact haircut today, isn't it? Well, get your survival food, guys. Get it over there at 4 Patriots. Okay, and so let's get right back into the arrest. So we're getting closer. The affidavit has been filed. Law enforcement knows who this guy is. They've got DNA evidence. They've looked him up. They've matched everything. They say 99.999% sure. Following the phone, following the surveillance footage all over the place. Now, before the arrest occurs, watch this. They also have airplanes flying around this dude's house. This came over from Jay Kuda, somebody who does some OSINT work, open source intelligence. He said this is a playback of the air traffic above Bryan Kohberger's parents' house the night before he was arrested. An unmarked plane circled it for 2 hours. Look at that. And this is where you can just go on these open source intelligence websites and just scrape the data from the FAA, basically, right? All this is public information. And they're watching this. So Kohberger's sitting there. He's like, man, we made it to Pennsylvania. I think I escaped that and got away with murder, literally. And they are circling over the skies. No way to escape it. And so that is what they did. Of course, they arrested him, and he has been being transported back over to Idaho. This is the scene when Kohberger, the runway perp walk of Bryan Kohberger, as he's transported in handcuffs back from Pennsylvania to Idaho. Walking down the tarmac, handcuffed up, officers to the sides, to the front, to the back, throwing him in the back of a truck as he makes his way to court. Now, there's another picture here, another image, video, where they're also putting a helmet on him. See this here. Kohberger gets a helmet on top of the head before they shove him in the back of that truck. Don't bang your head, okay? We've got a lot to talk to you about, and we're going to get to it. And so all of that took place. Now, he ends up in court. And so let's jump into some of these additional court documents. So we just read through the affidavit, and the judge, her job is to take a look at the affidavit and then make a decision about whether there's enough there. Is there enough probable cause to support these warrants and to go conduct the arrest? Here's what she found. After the affidavit was submitted in the case of Idaho versus Kohberger, the judge ordered and ruled as followed. She said, probable cause order under Idaho Rule Criminal 4. Upon review of the information provided in the affidavit that we just read through here, alleging that the defendant, Kohberger, committed the following offenses: burglary, murder first degree, murder first degree, murder first degree, and murder first degree. The court finds probable cause to believe the defendant did commit the crime shown above. A warrant of arrest shall be issued, and the amount of bail, no bail. You don't get out of custody when you murder for people. So the judge signed off on that. Looks like Megan Marshall is the name of the judge. Magistrate judge signed off on that 12/29, 2:22 p.m. Clerk of the court signed off on this. Shout out to Tanya. We love our clerks of the court. That is what instituted all of the arrest. Okay, so the officers submit the affidavit. Judge says, that looks good to me. That's all I need to see. Here you go. Probable cause order is issued, and then the proceedings start. They go next and issue the arrest warrant. They say, perfect. We've got our probable cause form. Now we need to make the arrest. The arrest is as follows. You see here, it is a warrant for the arrest, which has gotten submitted in the court. And it is in the same case, Idaho versus Kohberger. It says this is approved for any law enforcement officer in the state of Ohio. We believe that there were 4 murders and a burglary that took place committed by this guy, Bryan Kohberger, and you are ordered to arrest him and bring him before this court. No bail. He's hereby committed to the sheriff of the county, signed off on again by Megan Marshall. That's the warrant. That's what gives the police the authority to go get this guy. Everybody is jumping in to get it done. The warrant is submitted. And then we get the criminal complaint. Okay, this is the charging document. So now, once the warrant has been executed, they've got to charge him officially. This is what that document looks like. So it's a bunch of documents. This is what prosecutions look like. This is from the prosecuting attorney's office out of Latah County Courthouse. They're letting the court know that, hey, search warrant went great. We got him. This is the criminal complaint now that's been filed. And once he got transferred back, he got served with this. And then that was the trigger for releasing all of these documents. Let's take a look at what it says here. It says that Bryan Kohberger, on or about November 13th, did there commit the crimes as follows. Of course, the 4 murders and the burglary. Idaho code, all of them are felonies, 5 different counts in total. Committed as follows. All of them, of course, taking place November 13th each of these is going to be for the different victims. So Bryan Kohberger unlawfully entered a residence and committed a crime, right? So burglary, entering a residence and committing a felony therein. Didn't necessarily need to take anything, but the fact, well, so great question. So American Dreamer just brought this up. Please explain the burglary charge. So burglary, if you look up this statute, now I don't practice law in Idaho. I'm not licensed to practice law in Idaho, but I'd guess that if you look this statute up, it doesn't require the taking of anything. Burglary just means essentially you breaking and entering and committing a felony therein. Any type of felony, if you're trying to rob somebody, obviously that's a crime. It's felony theft in most states. So it's not necessarily that you have to take anything. People think burglary means you are robbing them. It's committing a felony inside the residence. So if you look up that statute, I guess that's how it was structured. Count two. Now, these are all the different, and thank you for that, by the way. That came in from American Dreamer. Shout out to American Dreamer. Thank you for the super chat and supporting the show here. The other counts, of course, are the murder charges. First degree, willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, right? He actually wanted to kill them. He planned to kill them, and he did. Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan down here, all murdered. May they rest in peace to their families. All of this which is contrary to the form, force, and law of the statutes. Bryan Kohberger did it, and they say he must be dealt with according to the law. Signed off on by the prosecuting attorney. I think we met him before. He was a cousin related to Santa Claus up in the North Pole, but William Thompson is his name. Very jolly fellow. And so he's got his work cut out for him on this case. Now, that is the criminal complaint. That's the charge that was filed. We have some more. The judge said, I don't want anybody talking about this case either. All right. Enough of the gossip. And the judge said the following and issued a dissemination order, often called a gag order. And so we'll see what this talks about here. The judge in the Bryan Kohberger case issuing this non-dissemination order, this one filed January 3rd in our great new year of 2023. Kohberger judge says it is hereby ordered that parties, including investigators, law enforcement, lawyers, prosecuting attorneys, defense lawyers, and everybody, you're all to shut up. No extrajudicial statements, prohibited from making them. Anything, written or oral, concerning this case other than a quotation from or reference to, without comment, the public records of the case. All right. So if somebody says, can you tell me about this? What's the deal? What's going on with this case? You say, well, look to the public records. The court published it. Go talk to them about it. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going right to the court records, which they have conveniently put up for us. It says that this order specifically prohibits any statement which a reasonable person would expect to be disseminated by means of public communication that relates to any of the following things. 1, evidence regarding the occurrences or transactions in this case, character, credibility, or criminal record of any party in this case, the performance or results of any examinations or tests, or failure of a party to submit to tests or examinations. Typo, missing an A right there. Yeah. And we have this one, any opinions as to the merits of the case. So no opinions. Any matters likely to interfere with a fair trial in this case. So you can't admit to anything. No admissions about the existence of confessions or anything. No conversations about the possibility of a guilty plea, right? So if prosecutors come out and they say, well, he's thinking about pleading guilty to second-degree murder, right? Then that means that he's thinking he's already guilty. And so that might bias the public about his innocence or guilt. It is further ordered that no person covered by this order shall avoid its prescriptions deliberately or indirectly, like don't tell your family member to start a blog or something. It's in full effect until a verdict has been returned. So signed by Megan Marshall. No conversations taking place about anything in the Kohberger trial. We have a second amended order about courtroom conduct, which we will take a look at. This one says here, the judge is giving us some more guidance on how this case will proceed. 4-page document. It is the second amended order governing the courthouse and courtroom conduct in the case of Bryan Kohberger. This order, says the judge, governs the courtroom conduct and the media activities, and it actually may be attended from time to time. It says this court's mindful. We have to balance constitutional rights, and we have to also balance constitutional rights of the media, and also we have to maintain order. We also have to prevent distractions. We also have to think about the safety of the public and all of these things. So with all that in mind, the judge says, here's what we've got. We are going to reserve seats for victims' families, their lawyers. We're also going to reserve seats for Kohberger's family and court personnel. The media will be pooled. So representatives of the media will have a pooled camera staff, so they'll all share one camera. It's going to be limited to 2 media members operating the pooled audio and video recordings of the hearing. 1 member media handling pooled still photography. Okay, so 1 photographer, 2 handling audio, video. Great. General public. The public and members of the media not designated may be permitted to sit in the courtroom as space permits. Wow. So you can just go and sit in. Can't reserve seats. No standing in the courtroom will be allowed. So we'll get cameras throughout this entire thing, right? Pooled camera staff shall be allowed. No seating in front of the bar, which is, the bar. You cross the bar, pass the bar. No person other than the court personnel designated by the court can sit in front of the bar. Entry and exit during court proceedings. No entry or exit during court session. Everybody's going to go through security screenings. Cell phones must be turned off and shall not be used for recording or transmitting any sounds or images. Otherwise, you'll lose your phone. Other electronic devices. Only authorized members of the media can use these things. Any disruptive behavior is going to be nuked out of the courtroom. COVID-19 precautions, they say, we'll let you know. No flash photography, no live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming from the courtroom is allowed. Wait a minute, what? Allowed media representatives and their equipment will be located in the courtroom. The number and placement of the pooled camera is being used, subject to approval by the court. So the court can say, no, go in that corner, go in that corner. No flash photography, no movement around the courtroom. 2 audio video recording devices and 1 still camera are permitted. Any traditional still camera shall have a silent shutter. No flash photography, no live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming. So I guess we're not going to see this live? No movement around while court's in session. Camera and audio shall not be set up nor disassembled. Okay, here. Portions of proceedings which may be televised. Photography, video not permitted during a recess. Wow. And no live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming from the courtroom is allowed. That's crappy. No video or photography shall be taken of any papers, interviews, reporting, and vehicle parking. Talking about parking hours, media inquiries can go to these email addresses. Security is going to be tight. Any disruptive behavior will be punished. This is from the administrative judge. So this is not from the lower level judge. This is from probably the higher up judge. All right. Well, so I'm not sure we're going to see much live. I know there was a proceeding today, but I don't know if that was televised live. I saw recordings. Now, our final document in the Bryan Kohberger case is the notice of a hearing. And so we had that today. This was the initial appearance for a felony. Of course, murder charges are going to be the most serious felonies. And this is State of Idaho versus Kohberger. Date and time of this hearing was 1/5/2023 at 9:30 a.m. The judge is Megan Marshall. All of this was here. They're just notifying us literally of the hearing. It's set for the hearing on this day. Now, the hearing, of course, occurred, and the judge gave us a ruling. And so the judge looked at Mr. Kohberger and decided no bail for Bryan. Said, I already set your release conditions, and getting out of custody is not one of them.
At this point in time, pursuant to Idaho Criminal 46B and Idaho Code 19-816 and 2903, I am going to leave the bail set of this case as no bail at this point in time until I have additional and further information at a later date and time. So with that, then Mr. Kohberger, you will be remanded in custody and remain in custody on no bail pending further proceedings in this matter. Is there anything further in the case that is for today, Mr. Thompson?
All right, so going back into custody, not getting out anytime soon. Of course, there'll be a lot more to cover on this case. We will absolutely do that. So I hope you subscribe. I hope you like this video wherever it is you're watching from, and we'll, of course, see you as this case develops on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good, serious Kohberger stuff, got through all of those documents, looked at 2 of the traffic stops, along with the perp walk down the airport. We also went through the Speaker of the House. And as we see, there is not going to be a speaker tonight. This is the final frame of the C-SPAN video that we were watching. And you can see the final results are, looks like McCarthy 200, Jeffries 212, Hern 7, Trump got a vote. Must be from Matt Gaetz. 12 voted for others and 1 voted for present. And you can see this looks like a bunch of Democrats there just kind of yucking it up, having a grand old time. And so, of course, we covered a lot of that today. We did the highlights, saw that Donald Trump got an endorsement, and we'll cover more of that tomorrow when we come back and do it all again. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day for the show today. We are going to jump over to our locals after party here in a short minute, but let's see what you had to say from our friends on YouTube and our friends on Rumble and our friends on Twitter, because we have a lot of friends out there all across the fruited plain of the internet. And we had a couple super chats that came in. Let's see what we had here in the house. We had our first one from Playin' Hooky. This one says, Rob, a certain phrase is the story of our life. We need retribution for the lies and corruption. The Twitter files prove this, and it's time to tell the truth about this issue. Please address on Rumble and locals. All right, we'll address this comment, Playin' Hooky, in the after party. All right, we'll head on over to locals and do it. However, thank you for saying it. We'll just leave it off the YouTubes because the YouTube doesn't like us at all, and we can't really get into it. But we'll talk about it tonight or tomorrow over on locals, Playin' Hooky, and maybe on one of our Rumble after parties. I kind of want to do some whole segments on some of that stuff. And, there's times when we can do like half a show on YouTube and then half of another show on Rumble. And, I'm sort of looking for stories like that when, probably, honestly, Playin' Hooky, honestly, it'll probably be, we'll probably get into all of this when the Fauci files drop. Okay, if I'm being real about this, when the Fauci files drop on Twitter, we'll probably just have, we can't talk about those on YouTube, right? They'll drop, we'll just have to just say, hey, well, here's what we can talk about. All of the rest of it, we're just going over to Rumble and locals, and then we can get into all of that. All right, and so thank you for that, Playin' Hooky. I appreciate you, and thank you for modding down the fort for us. We also have Jenny B. says, boom, Gaetz just nominated the next speaker, Trump, 4 exclamation points. Oh my goodness. Hope he wins on J6. How sweet would that be? Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that. Yes, tomorrow is the anniversary. Hold on, let's get serious here. The anniversary of Podium Geddon, when we all almost lost our nation. The nuclear codes almost ended up in that one dude's hands, and it could have been really bad. All right, and so, yeah, that would be hysterical, Jenny B. Yeah, the whole party becomes unified tomorrow. They nominate Donald Trump as Speaker of the House on the 2-year anniversary of J6. Hysterical. This one came in from Alan Harkin, a very generous one, Alan. Thank you for sending that in. He says, great analysis and explanation of the many complexities of law, translation of legalese into English. Well, thank you, Alan. Sometimes it doesn't even sound like English when it's coming out, but I'm glad that you can understand it regardless. It's a lot of fun. We're unpacking. We're sort of learning a lot of this stuff in public, going through these experiences together. And I'm glad that you're here and joining us. And I really do appreciate the work. So shout out to Alan Harkin. Thank you for sending in that very generous dono. I hope you're having a beautiful, happy new year. And also to American Dreamer, please explain the burglary charge. Thank you. And, I never like to sort of look up things on the fly, but let's just see what the Idaho for burglary looks like and just see what that says. Okay, here it is. Section 18-1401. Doesn't look like it's even loading. That's great news. All right, so the website is not even loading. I'll show you, literally. Idaho statute for burglary. There it is. Look, it's right here. Legislature.idaho. Can't reach this page. All right. Guess that's it then. Here, let's go to Justia and see what it says. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so it's a pretty simple statute. Here's what it says. Burglary as defined, every person who enters any house, room, apartment, mill, barn, stable, whatever, with intent to commit any theft or any felony is guilty of burglary, right? So like, you don't have to steal anything. Like if you went in there and just smashed somebody's TV, for example, right? That'd be like criminal damage, $2,000 TV, felony, criminal damage. So then it'd be, burglary. That'd be burglary. You didn't take anything. You just, burnt the TV or torched the couch or whatever. And you'd still be charged with burglary under the statute. So it's a great question. And that's one of those trick questions that they get you on in law school. They'll give you fact patterns where they'll say, on multiple choice exams, they'll say, what crime did this person commit? And a lot of law school students will say, well, he didn't take anything. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. He didn't have to take anything, right? They sort of will give you the four choices. One of the four choices will say he left with something or something. And it's always interesting. All right. And that came in from American Dreamer, and we're grateful for you, American Dreamer. And over on Rumble, shout out to our Rumble friends. We've got Eric Scorpios over there. Peter Tags in the house. K9 Calms, he says, good evening, Robert. Just signing in. Well, welcome, K9. Welcome to the program. We're about to wrap it up, unfortunately. So maybe hit that rewind button. Jan X over there says, thanks, Rob. Peter Tags over there. Dog Diggers over there. And we've got a whole bunch of people over on Rumble, so check us out over there. Before we leave, I wanted to reference this. Paul Minot was in the house. He's over at on Twitter at Sleepy Dog Lee. And as we were going through the show, and Matt Gaetz was wondering about the squatters out there, he found this, which is a very astute point. Squatters' rights in Washington, D.C. I mean, like Kevin McCarthy has some kind of like good leverage here. A squatter, which would be Kevin McCarthy, is someone who takes up residence in an unoccupied building, which is the Speaker House currently. This is done without lawful permission. Yeah, so that's Kevin. This person does not own or rent the property. Check that box. And they're usually there without the owner's knowledge. We know about this one now. So I guess the question is, what can we do? Squatters or trespassers might falsely claim that they have a right to the property. I think that's accurate, yeah. False or fraudulent papers? Well, he doesn't even have any papers. This says squatters have rights? Wow. Squatters cannot claim adverse possession, holdover tenants. Wow, this is complicated. So it actually looks like there may not be much that can be done. How to get rid of squatters. Call the police. File a police report. Well, it's in Capitol Hill Police, so they're not going to do anything about it. What are they going to do? Nothing. All right, well, so that's good to know. Now, my friends, let's jump over to our Twitter thread and see if we have one or two people joining in over there. Let's see how many we have. About to get crazy over there. One viewer. Outstanding. It's Paul. Shout out to Paul Minot, who's watching us over on Twitter. Grateful for you, Paul. Without you, this show would not even be on Twitter. If nobody's watching, is it even there? We have Dare to Think for Yourself. Norwegian Manor says, thank you, Robert. Well, thank you, Norwegian Manor. Danny McWilliams says, what's up? What's up, Danny? Trump for speaker? Would that even be legal? Not that legality really matters, shaking my head. Yeah, it's legal. They can do that. You don't even have to be a member of the House. Danny says, someone should stand up and nominate Bugs Bunny or nobody. Yeah, or like a dead person, what does it matter? Be about as useful. All right, my friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going to wrap it up. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our beautiful after party. But before we do, my friends, I want to thank you for being a part of the show. And of course, the web address is if you want to follow us over there for a little bit of an after party. Check it out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Also, want to shout out to our supporters over at forpatriots.com. So if you would like to get survival food and survival gear and make sure that you're prepared for all situations. And right, I think it is important to be prepared. I joke about the incoming death apocalypse, but seriously. forpatriots.com, 10% off anything in the store at forpatriots.com. Use code Robert. And also our law firm, the R&R Law Group. If you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona who's facing criminal charges, anything minor, things definitely more serious, we can help at any level. We've been doing it for years. We have an awesome team. We have amazing systems. And the most important thing is we get amazing results. We help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. We offer free case evaluations. Anybody in the state of Arizona charged with a crime, give us a call. And your referrals really do keep us busy. 480-787-0394, online at rrlawaz.com. And of course, thank you to the mods who mod down the fort for us. Big ultra shout outs to Vienticus, K-Bean. I see Just Cause is in the house. Lean is here playing hooky. We've got Ronnie, we've got Zulu, and we've got Henry and Gio who swing by from time to time. We love our mods. They mod down the fort for us. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for an after party. And we'd love to see you there. But if not, we will be back here tomorrow. It's going to be a Friday, the first full week of the year. And we're going to get right into it. And I hope to see you here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Locals, I'll see you in 30 seconds. Everybody else, bye-bye.